Hey guys, today I'm going to be drawing this comic and talking about 5 tips for being a more productive artist. I get this question quite a lot, and I think a lot of people struggle with being productive, being inspired. So the first one, you've probably heard before, is 5% inspiration, 95% perspiration. And I would break that down as, rather than just getting down to work, I think, okay, I'm just going to go on the internet and get inspired. I need some inspiration. So I'll sit and look at other people's artwork for 20 minutes, half an hour, and eventually, inevitably, looking at all this brilliant artwork is going to make me think, why am I even bothering? I can't produce anything nearly as good as this. And if you can limit the need to go and search for inspiration, and 95% of the time you just sit down and get going with the task in hand, there's always a moment of procrastination where you don't want to start the work, and you just need to push through that. And that takes me on to my second tip, and that is the 10-minute rule. If you just sit yourself down and say, okay, I'm just going to do this thing for 10 minutes, and no excuses, I've got to sit down and do it. I always end up sitting down for hours after that and just getting stuff done. At this point, you're getting pretty productive, you're getting stuff done, and rather than just making lots of random work, you're going to need to make lists. So my third tip for being a productive artist is make lists. Now, I have lists all over the place. The latest one I've got is a website called Trello.com. It's a free service, and you can set up checklists, and you can divide your board into different categories. Google Docs, of course, is another one, and recently I've been using Excel spreadsheet to track this latest project, which is larger than my usual projects. My fourth tip for being a productive artist is finish things. It's not as easy as it sounds, and part of finish things is planning, making lists. All of these kind of tips link together with each other, and if you can plan to make smaller projects, especially early on in your artistic life, it's very tempting to go for a huge, sprawling, epic story or just a ginormous project because it's exciting. But the chances of you finishing that are quite slim. So to give yourself the best chance of finishing something, you should really be a little bit more realistic and go for the smaller projects. When you're just starting out, you will improve rapidly as well. So if you choose a very large project that spans over several years, which a lot of people do when they start out, you will find that halfway through, your work at the beginning looks nothing like what you're working on now. Hopefully, if you're improving. Basically, you would have been better to do a lot of smaller projects so that you can get to the point where you can do a consistent project all the way through. And my last tip for being a productive artist, this one's going to sound obvious, but don't quit. Through various projects that I've done in the past, I've noticed a habit of finishing a project and then having a kind of a fallout at the end of it where you don't feel like the thing you created was what you wanted it to be. And as you start out, that's going to be very true. Like, you have a certain expectation, a level of taste that tells you what is good and what isn't. And that's what makes you think that you can make something good. But the actual process of making something good is extremely difficult. So after you've made something, you will quite often feel like you didn't achieve what you set out to do. And pretty much every project I've done, until fairly recently, I've had a huge gap in between projects where I just lost faith in what I was doing. And I think if you can limit the amount of time in between, the amount of time where you sort of get over the last project, if you can just barrel straight into the next thing, just make the next thing better, basically. Obviously it's good to occasionally stand back and assess the situation, but generally I think people who just accept that what they are making is not going to be perfect and the next thing will be better, those people improve quicker than the people who quit, even briefly. So there you go, that's my 5 tips for being a productive artist. I hope that helps a few people and is a better answer than I've previously given. If you want to see more videos like this and have me answer more questions, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what else you would like me to talk about and what questions you'd like me to answer. Cheers, and I'll see you next time.